I want to talk now about where we go, but I have to say, just for a moment, if you will indulge me, since I know I have a good bipartisan crowd here, there may be more, indeed, Republicans than Democrats in this audience. This is a rather curious election season. I mean, after all, if I were a Republican president who said to you, look, we've reduced the deficit, reduced the size of government, gotten the economy going again, adopted the toughest crime bill in history, promoted peace and reduced the nuclear threat and increased trade all around the world, the Republicans would say it would be unpatriotic to campaign against the people who voted for those policies in their races for Congress. I think that's right. And yet, we are living in a time of such cynicism that a lot of these races all around the country are being dominated by people who say, vote for me because I know that the government is inherently bad, that everything they do is wrong, that anything they do will make the problem worse, that if anything good happens in this country while Mr. Clinton's in office, it's either in spite of him or unrelated to the fact that, like the principal, he shows up for work every day. Now, imagine this. Suppose your office worked that way. And some guy comes in and he says, hire me to work in your real estate office because the real estate industry is inherently sick. And you couldn't do anything right if you wanted to. And if you hire me, I'll sit in the office all day and I won't try to sell a house. If half the people who came to work in your place every day said, I'm showing up for work, but really we're going in the wrong direction and we can't make anything good happen, and that glass is half empty, you'd all be broke. And yet we are seriously entertaining giving our votes to people who tell us these things. Folks, the government is neither inherently good or bad. It is our tool. It is the instrument that reflects us. It is what we make of it. It can do wrong, it can do right. It can be good, it can be bad. You know, my view has been that we have tended to see government in too much black or white terms. We look to government as the savior when we're in trouble, and the rest of the time we say that we ought to junk it. It's either our savior or we want it on the sidelines. The truth is, in my opinion, as we move toward the 21st century, government should be seen as an instrument that seeks to create opportunity in the private sector, that seeks to empower people, and then challenges people to assume both individual and community responsibility, because that's where most of the action is in America today. The government cannot do as many things directly and should not try, but without a sensible, aggressive, focused government working in partnership and challenging people to assume responsibility for their own lives, this country cannot live up to its potential. Many of the things that we do actually matters. The family and medical leave law made a difference in the lives of millions of Americans who wanted to be successful parents and workers, who wanted to be able to take a little time off when they had a baby born or a sick parent without losing their jobs. Our expansion of Head Start made a difference. That program works. A lot of kids are going to wind up being good students and good citizens now who might have taken a different path in life. Those things make a difference. The changes we made in the real estate laws, reversing the mistakes that were made in 1986, made a difference to you. It makes a difference whether we do the right thing or the wrong thing. So, the only thing I ask you to do, without regard to your party or your philosophy, is to remember what we did here has made a difference. As they say back in Arkansas, where I come from, if you find a turtle on a fence post, chances are it didn't get there by accident. And I think you ought to think about that. And what we need in this country so much is to get away from this whole kind of negative-dominated way of talking, where we scream at each other instead of visit with each other. Believe me, I don't have all the answers. And if you try to do as many things as I've tried to do, you'll make a mistake or two, and I acknowledge that. But what we need in this country is people in public life who do what you expect when you're trying to get to sell real estate. You got to show up every day with a positive attitude and a willingness to look at the facts and a willingness to learn and a determination to make progress. That's what we need. We need to discuss these things with one another. You know, these social problems we've got in this country, I say again, have been developing for 30 years, but they are of profound importance. We can fix the economy, and if we lose millions of our kids, like those kids that dropped that 5-year-old out of that high-rise in Chicago, well, it's going to be hard for America to be what it ought to be. And these economic problems are of profound complexity. When people work harder and they get more productive and they make the economy grow with no inflation, then the first thing they're told is the economy's growing with no inflation, but we might have inflation, so we're going to raise interest rates so you won't get an increase in your income. See, these are frustrating, complex problems. On the other hand, we don't want inflation. You look at these countries that are gripped with inflation, it will kill your economy. These are complicated problems. But what we need in America today is a country that should be full of optimism and hope and a conviction that we can all make a difference. You know, when I came back from the Middle East, I was so impressed by that. I looked at the faces of our young men and women in uniform in the Persian Gulf who moved so quickly against Saddam Hussein's aggression. I looked at the people who were there at the peace signing between Jordan and Israel and how grateful they were for the role of the United States in that peace. And I thought to myself, around the world, nobody is cynical about the United States. They know this is a very great country. All I ask you to do is to bring your differences into the framework that this is a very great country, moving in the right direction, leading the world, and we can solve our problems, but only if we speak with one another and listen to one another and stop just throwing these verbal bombs across the fences that divide us and turn us into cynical and negative people. We're not going to get anywhere doing that.